Hey, we didn't have time to get to a lot of the questions that were answered during our last stream, so I'm going to do a really quick segment where I try to answer as many of them as I can and sort of play catch up with the chat. So at the very beginning of the stream, Nightmaker1979 asked, who was the favorite character for guests in State of Decay 1 and the Trumbull Valley returning Heartland characters? So I can't, I don't think there's an official single character that is everyone's favorite. I can give you my favorite returning character, which is Isby. Isby has always been one of my favorite characters in our world, and I was so happy when I heard that Andy and his team of narrative designers had plans to bring her back. She not only participates in one of the major sort of central storylines of Trumbull Valley, but she has a side storyline of her own that really sort of she comes across as a little bit of a sociopath, not maybe a sociopath, but a little bit of a sort of, she's in her own head a lot, not really thinking very highly of other people, and you really kind of get to know her as a person, and it kind of surfaces her humanity a lot more, I think, than sort of the version of her that we got to see in Heartland. She's evolved as a character, and I think that's really a lot of fun to see. Big Lou was asking about the vehicle that I was driving throughout most of the stream. Actually, I need to where did I stick that vehicle? He was wondering, is this Brogan that I've been driving around, is this a newly released version of the vehicle? No. This is an unreleased version of the vehicle. This is a vehicle that we've had in the game for a really long time, and we have never released it to the public, and we still haven't. It's not in Trumbull Valley. I was driving it around specifically because I was curious, how the audience would react to seeing this vehicle, and if they're interested in maybe seeing more of it in the future. We haven't figured out what we're going to do with this one yet. It's been sitting in our back pocket forever, the same way the Wizard van was, and we haven't decided what it's for yet. So, it's kind of hard to see because of all of the sheer number of zombies that I hit with it. It's kind of hard to see the art here, but it looks like, yeah, there's a lot going on this car. So if folks are interested in it, please let me know, because I would love to find an excuse to get that vehicle officially into the game. Let's see what else we've got going on here. So Bob Cadaver says, I kind of wished that the church was a base for nostalgia purposes. So yeah, the church does play a role in the story as we tell it. So folks who have nostalgia for the church, you're going to definitely get opportunities to spend time at the church, experiencing content that I just don't want to get into any details about it, because I feel like the church, while it would have had value as a base if we had decided to make it one of the bases, the role that it's playing in our story now, I think, actually ends up being a little bit more important as far as sort of wrapping up the storylines of some of these characters. So I'm really happy with the decisions that Andy and Doug's teams made about what to do with the church, and I hope that you enjoy it too. We didn't just forget about the church and just do a little bit of art there and then leave it behind. The church does play a role, and I hope you enjoy what you discover there. Let's see here. Oh, so Angel Eyes asks, one of the Xbox achievements is having 4 Red Talon facilities in your base. If you get the Red Talon base, do you get that achievement? So I haven't tested this. My assumption is no. When we made that base, we remade all of those facilities as built-in versions of themselves, and they also needed to get a bunch of new actions on them. For instance, each of them is destroyed in a certain way, and we needed to give you some means of repairing them. And I won't get into details about exactly how that works. There are other videos out there where people walk through the entire process for you, so you can look this up if you want to. But what I will say is those facilities had to be made fundamentally different. So my assumption is that unless we triggered that achievement in an unusual way, that achievement should not fire for you when you claim, or even when you fully restored the Red Talon base. That achievement is still a Daybreak achievement that's based on using the rewards from Daybreak in the game, rather than just finding the Red Talon facilities already installed. Doug Dimmadome asks, how much time has passed since the first game in this version of the map? That's a really interesting question. So if I still had Andy here, I would probably ask him to give me the definitive answer to that. We have always been saying that it was about 12 to 18 months that passed between State of Decay 1 and State of Decay 2. State of Decay 2 includes Heartland, and this map takes place significantly after Heartland. And so it's probably somewhere in the 18-month to 2-year range from the original State of Decay, but that's a very eventful 1 to 2 years. So it's more aging than you would expect an area to go through in that amount of time has happened in Trumbull Valley, because this has been a very, very eventful place. Jack Stafford asks, will you be able to find the Echo weapons like in Heartland? Are those still Heartland exclusive? Yeah, so the Echo weapons are still exclusive to Heartland and to the Trumbull Valley pack from the Bounty Broker. You can also find those weapons there. So there's 2 different ways you can get the weapons. You can get Echo weapons into your normal game via the Bounty Broker if you really want to have them that way, but the Echo weapons are not built into Trumbull Valley. We actually have an entirely new set of weapons that were added that are exclusive to Trumbull Valley, weapons that are themed to the network and Red Talon and the experiences that those factions have had settling and trying to do things in this territory. So so rather than the Echo weapons, you've got a whole new set of weapons to discover. And so, again, there are other content creators who've made videos giving you tours of some of these weapons. So go ahead and look those up if you want to find them out early, or just go exploring yourself. A lot of them are available via that discovery system, where if you look for those magnifying glasses and other things on the map, you'll be able to track those down and pick up those new weapons. So Protender asks, where does this map's story fit into the timeline? Are they before Heartland? No, as we were mentioning earlier in the stream, they were after Heartland. So so basically the 3 stages of the Trumbull Valley saga are State of Decay 1, which happened right on the heels of the outbreak. Heartland, which happened around a year or more after the outbreak, when Trumbull Valley became sort of this hotbed of new plague mutations and new plague behaviors that no one had seen before, that the player has to come in and resolve. And then the new core Trumbull Valley map takes place after Heartland, after that major plague infestation is handled, and you're seeing sort of the aftermath of that for the characters and where they go with their lives in the wake of that really sort of life-defining event. So Cryochamber asks, do you use your own community for this anniversary version of the map? Yeah, so this is so the new Trumbull Valley map is a normal core map. In fact, if I want to drop back into gameplay here, you can see that, I'm not standing in my actual base. My base is Pterodactyl Park, but I've got right here, this is not a Heartland community. This is not a specially dedicated community that was created just for this map. This is a normal community that I could have brought from any map. So if you want to play in Trumbull Valley, there's a couple of different ways to get in there. You can create a brand new community that just starts on Trumbull Valley using the normal route that you would normally take into Trumbull Valley, into any map in our game, or you can move one of your existing communities to Trumbull Valley. And if you've never done that before, I can show you right here. So every map has got icons like this at the edges. Most maps have 3 of them. This map only has 1 because what part of the story of Trumbull Valley in the original State of Decay was it has only 1 exit. And so we couldn't really violate that. So this is the exit to Trumbull Valley, but once you have upgraded your command center 1 time to be a command center 2, that automatically unlocks the map exits. And so this icon will go from being gray to being black and white and sort of bright and shiny. And once it's bright and shiny, you can drive a car up here and it will prompt you and ask you, are you ready to leave the map? And if you do that, what's going to happen is it'll be just like moving bases. We'll basically sell all of your facilities and you will move your characters, everything in your supply locker, all your resources, including the resources you got refunded from us breaking down your facilities, and you'll take them to your new map and you'll land at the starter base of the new map. Let's see what else. So Big Lou wanted to know, are we going to be getting new save slots with this update? No, we have heard the request from players that they would like to have more save slots. Right now, our game has 5 maps and only 3 save slots, which feels like that's a little bit of a mismatch, right? Like if you want to be able to play in all 5 maps, it feels like maybe you'd want more save slots than that. So that is feedback that we have received and taken very seriously. We did not implement anything like that for this particular update, but it is high on our priority list, and it's something we would like to get to very soon. So Gameplay de Republica wants to know, did we add anything to the soundtrack? Yes, we did, and I can't give you any more details on that because I do not have the audio team here. But if I did have them here, they could probably fill you in on that, and maybe I need to make sure that we do give them a chance to talk about that. So thank you for the reminder. But yeah, I do believe that there have been new audio tracks added and a lot of other audio work that went into just bringing this map to life. Let's see here. Oh, so Red Moonwolf asked something that wasn't really about the map, but they asked, this walk animation that my character can do. Is that available only if you're using a controller? Right now, yes, it is. That actually is a pretty common request from players, because players who are using WASD, they don't have this lovely analog stick they can push partway in to make the character walk and then all the way to make the character jog around. They just have a key that is either pressed or not. And so, players who do not play with the controller don't have the ability to make their characters walk away from explosions like cool people, and so that's kind of a missing feature that we'd love to be able to provide. It's on our list. I hope that we get a chance to get to it, because I understand that there's a lot of players, especially players who like to create content to share on YouTube, that sort of thing. They'd like to be able to make their characters look a little cooler, and we totally understand that. We'd love to do it at some point. I'm not sure where it falls exactly in our priority list, but it is something we would love to get to at some point. We just need to figure out what button it belongs on, which is a little bit of a challenge. Let's see here. So a lot of players have been asking, what time of day this is going to be released. So it is going to be released on September 1st, but the time is usually something we hesitate to share with people, just because we don't directly control the exact moment that it releases, and there's a lot of different things that could potentially go wrong with something like that. And so if we set a particular time, we would hate to be on the hook for that in case something goes wrong and it doesn't release on exactly the right time. So traditionally, a lot of our things have released in the morning and sort of late morning Pacific time, and so that wouldn't be an insane thing to hope for, but again, we can't make any specific promises about that. And of course, depending on what time zone you're in, that's going to vary widely. So if you're in Europe, usually these things tend to land in the late afternoon. If you're further east in Asia, they tend to land in the middle of the night. So that's historically what's happened, but again, I'm not going to commit to any particular time, because we don't want to commit to something and then have it not be true. Let's see here. So Jesse wants to know, why aren't they letting us continue the story with our characters from Heartland? So the characters from Heartland were very specifically designed for Heartland, including on a gameplay level. They had different fifth skills and a different type of base that was unlocked in a very different way. They aren't actually very compatible with the core game. And so what we decided to do with them instead was have them play a major role as non-playable characters in the story of Trumbull Valley, and so you do still get to see the future of those characters and where they've gone since Heartland, but you don't. They are not playable characters because they just don't fit into sort of the gameplay constraints of the core game. So instead, you get to bring and one thing that we really wanted to lean into though too was the fact that a lot of players, the thing they were specifically requesting from us was a non-Heartland version of Trumbull Valley where they could play their own communities. And so that was the major thing. That was the thing that was on the wish list, and that's the thing we were answering from the audience. And so we really wanted to make sure that we definitely answered that request. Even though I'm sure there are probably like Jesse among them, players among our community who would like to basically have a Heartland 2 that takes Heartland even further. The most common request was for players to have a version of Trumbull Valley they could play like it's any other map from the game, and so we made sure to answer that request. So the Gunner has been listening to our Desi broadcasts, which are these sort of teaser videos with just very short radio snippets that have been kind of giving hints about the backstory of Trumbull Valley. And he's asking a specific question about whether the military is playing an important role in Trumbull Valley based on one of the Desi broadcasts talking about the military. One thing I want to make sure is clear about Desi is that the story that Desi is telling, a lot of it takes place during the sort of the interim between State of Decay 1 or Heartland and the Trumbull Valley core map. So she's not necessarily talking about the current immediate situation in Trumbull Valley. A lot of what she's sharing is information about the past of Trumbull Valley. So you shouldn't necessarily expect hints that Desi gives you to represent what is going on actively right now when you bring your community to the map. It's much more about filling in the lore of the game than telling you exactly what's going to be going on. Oh, so Izzy Zig wants to know why was that the base, the farmland base in the middle of the map, or actually it wasn't the base necessarily, but why, wants to know why one of our farmhouses was renamed from the McCready farmhouse to the Santos farmhouse. That sort of reflects the fact that Trumbull Valley has gone through a lot of progression in its storyline over time. Basically, while there were people who lived in that farmhouse, probably named McCready at some point in Trumbull Valley's history, Ray Santos and his community took over that area more recently during State of Decay Heartland, and so that it felt like it was more appropriate to sort of name things after the most recent thing that happened to them, rather than going completely historically, just leaning really hard into the historical narrative of what they originally were. We're trying to let the story sort of move the valley forward over time and keep leaning into what happened most recently in each of these places. And so Raymond Giuliano wants to know if we're going to update the number of different camouflage colors available on the Boonie hat in the game, which is a very specific request. We have heard that one a lot, though, too. So that's something I actually don't know the answer to that question, whether we put any thought into that. So that's something I could certainly follow up on for you. He also wanted to know if the Little Piggy tow truck is going to be a drivable vehicle in our game in State of Decay 2, the way that it was eventually in the Year 1 Survival Edition of State of Decay 1. Right now, the Little Piggy tow truck is not a drivable vehicle in the game. Doesn't mean it never will be, but that wasn't. We still have it as a sign on top of a building where there is a discovery that you can go and find. But we did not make it a drivable vehicle for the map. We actually the team members who would have been doing that were doing something else for this update that we thought was really valuable and important. Oh, okay. So Trigard, or maybe it's Tragard D asks, will there be anything about the Haven Protocol? That was one of that was sort of a cliffhanger at the end of Heartland. If you remember Heartland, one of the very last things it said in the very sort of last cutscene of Heartland is, you hear Cleo's voice saying that she's ready to activate the Haven Protocol. And so that actually is one of the storylines that we pick up in Trumbull Valley, though exactly how we pick it up and what it leads to, not ready to share that spoiler quite yet. Some people have discovered it already, people who are playing in the beta. If you're really hungry for the information, I'm sure you can track it down. But if you play in the map and you follow sort of the main storylines that get unlocked as you explore and as you accomplish different things in the map, you will eventually get an answer to what the Haven Protocol is and what Cleo has been up to on this map. Mathis Vonder wants to know, can you do these map missions every time you enter Trumbull, or are these missions one time only? These missions, our intent is for these missions to be one time only per community, which means that if you make different communities and keep coming to Trumbull Valley, you can keep playing them again and again. But if you have the same community and they go to Trumbull Valley, they leave and go to, say, Drucker County or something, then they come back to Trumbull Valley, those missions, if everything went right and we don't have any bugs, those missions should actually not only not replay if you've played through them all, they should actually pick up where they left off if you left halfway through them and then came back, which is a new feature. We've never done anything like that in State of Decay 2, so which is why I'm like crossing my fingers and hoping that we're right and we didn't get it wrong somehow, because we haven't done it before. It's a brand new feature, but yeah, that is the intent, is for them to be one time only per community, to feel like they're real, like they really happen to your people, they're part of their story, not just that they are just a sort of a recyclable piece of content that you can just see again and again and again. And let's see here. So Nanako wants to know, will only Trumbull Valley have these spots where the characters react to things in the world? So far, yes. As of Update 26, yes, those discoveries are only going to exist in the Trumbull Valley map. That doesn't mean that that's going to be true forever. We might have opportunities later on in the future to integrate them into other maps. It really just kind of depends on how our priorities shake out. And a lot of those decisions have not yet been made. So I can't promise you'll see them in other parts of the map, but that's not a crazy thing for us to ask ourselves to do. So yeah, Burnt Dragon wants to know, is there one unique improvement over all the others from the old map that came into this one? Honestly, like it's really hard to call out any one single improvement because there are so many. I'm personally a big fan of all of the added development that went into Fairfield, which is a very broad answer to that question. But between the Oasis, the new base that we added over here to the to the what's it called, Ferris wheel, to the Ferris wheel. All of the new development over here by the dam, this area here with the like the campsites and additional sort of industrial buildings along near the bridges. The way that each of the bridges was handled, like Fairfield is just a completely different place. If you play through Fairfield in the original State of Decay and then come here, it is like night and day. There was so much time and work that was put into Fairfield in particular. It's really kind of overwhelming. I should underscore again that the team that builds the maps, they spent a lot of time building Heartland originally, but Heartland, we spent about 7-8 months maybe on Heartland. We spent over a year on this iteration of Trumbull Valley, and so and we started from Heartland. So not only did we just have all of that Heartland work already put into this map, but then we did an additional, we even spent longer after Heartland putting all this additional development into this map, and a lot of that work went into Fairfield. And so it's really where you're going to see a lot of this team's best work is right here in Fairfield. So I'd really recommend that people check that out. And then Burnt Dragon asks a question, which I believe that we handled, but let me just address it one more time. Is there a reason you guys chose an existing map and added onto it instead of creating a whole new map design? So a lot of that goes back to the wish list. We have a wish list. It's available at support.stateofdecay.com if you want to participate. So if you go there, you'll see wish list is one of the options. I think it's up at the top right-hand corner of the screen. If you click that, it can go to a wish list. You can sort it by the number of upvotes that different ideas have. And if you do sort it by upvotes, you'll see that Trumbull Valley as a core map is one of the top upvoted items on that wish list, which means that this is one of the things that players not have just been asking for, but agreeing with each other and coordinating with each other and saying, yes, we want Trumbull Valley as a core map. So the first additional map we made after the release of State of Decay 2 was Providence Ridge, and that was a wholly original map. We built it specifically to accommodate new players, to accommodate a new sort of tutorial sequence that we added to the game, and every bit of that map was brand new. And so that was sort of our opportunity to sort of explore in that direction. And of course, the 3 original maps that we made for State of Decay 2 were all brand new, were not from the original game. This particular time, we were responding to basically a lot of requests from players that we specifically add this new nostalgic map to the game. And so that's why we did it. It's mostly just because that's what players asked for. And that's sort of, a lot of the improvements we make to the game are things that we ourselves have recognized as improvements that we want to make, just as, as artists who are, who are continuing to support something that we've built, that we've got a big creative investment in. But also a lot of the choices that we've been making were motivated by player requests. So we really try to pay a lot of attention to what the audience is asking for. And that's what has led us to do things like, and I highlighted this during the stream, but I can highlight it again. If I hop into this car and I turn on the headlights and I pop out of the car again, the headlights stay on. That was a wishlist requested feature, and it didn't occur to us when we were first, building the game. But because we were listening to players and what they wanted, we were able to add this new feature to the game that really it really is a boon to players who play at night, who would like to be able to see better and scavenge without being in total darkness and relying wholly on their own flashlight. That's a really big improvement to the game, and we honestly probably never would have thought of doing it if players hadn't requested it. And so we really tried to spend a lot of our effort to balance sort of our own as the sort of creative sort of owners of this franchise. There's a lot of things that we want to do with it ourselves, but we know there's also a lot of things that players want, and so we really try to balance those two between us doing things that we think benefit the game in a way that matters to sort of us and our creative vision for the world that we're creating, but we also want to balance that against things that players have expressed that they want with our game, because I think that's sort of like, you have to sort of strike a balance like that in order to have a truly satisfying piece of art. Is you need to be thinking about your own vision, but also thinking about the experience that the audience is having, and working with a hybrid of that to sort of create the final product. So I know there's a lot of other people who are chatting with me in Twitch and sending different comments and different questions. I think I have to get on to actually cutting these videos, and so I'm going to need to move on from this. So I only answered the questions that actually got surfaced to me during the actual official stream before the mods went offline. But thank you all so much for watching this stream, for asking all these questions, and for participating in places like our wish list, because it's our communication with you that lets us know what you, the audience, want from this game, and that's a huge, massive influence on what it is we decide to do, and our ability to make satisfying and exciting improvements to the game really depends on you telling us about the experiences that you're having. And sometimes that means we'll do the exact things that you ask us to do. And sometimes it means we'll use your feedback as sort of a starting point for ideas of our own. But either way, that this relationship that we have with you is critically important to us. So thank you so much for attending our streams, talking to us, giving us your feedback, letting us know what you think, and all of those content creators out there, like the folks that I've been watching, particularly in the wake of the beta launching, Brian Menard, Sunny Games, Arvid. A lot of you folks have been just incredibly valuable voices in sort of giving us feedback on how the game works, and also communicating with all those players out there who really want to understand more deeply what's going on in this game. You guys add so much to what we've been doing that we really appreciate it. So thank you all so much. With that, I should probably get out of here. So let me just go back to the outro screen, and we'll do another sort of YouTube video outro. And this time it's real. This time I'm actually going to go away. Thank you all so much, and goodbye. That was a whole 30 minutes. What was I thinking? Oh my gosh, my voice is going to die. Click links, subscribe, get Game Pass.